Welcome everybody today. We're getting going now in the first of our series of Mind Fitness 2023. So welcome back to those of you that haven't been in one of these sessions before, and hello again to our familiar faces. Familiar faces, I'm Jenny Pelling. I'm the Director of Apprenticeship Development and Diversity at Kaplan and a responsibility for personal development and well-being. And I'm really thrilled to be joined in the nick of time by Ross McWilliam, our expert speaker from Mindset Pro, who's a published author and speaker and a mental health first aid trainer. So Ross, typical brilliant timing from you. This is Blue Monday, and you're going to help us on this journey of developing a positive mindset.
Yeah, I think people always want a quick fix, don't they? And I was reading an article yesterday in a magazine, and this is not a wrong article, and I've copied it into the presentation. But get outside and get some exercise and get some sunshine and change your diet and get some good friends and have someone to listen to. And again, they're all good things, but they often, not all of them will happen by magic. You've got to work towards them. And some of the things I'll talk to you today about are those quick wins and some more longer term wins, if that's okay with you guys. And as Jenny, as I like to do, ask your questions, and we'll have a place at the end, but ask them as we go through. Use the chat box. Let's make as interactive as possible. Okay. So with your permission, Jenny, I'll put the slides up and I'll go on and do that.
Please do.
Okay, make sure people can see that one. So developing a positive mindset, turning Blue Monday, as everybody calls it, into Gold Monday. Okay, I'll come back to that shortly about that. And we'll go through about 1:15 today. Okay, so a bit about me very quickly. I do some TV work, write some books, work for some big organizations, and thankfully for the last, I think, 18 months or so, work with Kaplan. So that's the most important fact on there for sure. Okay, so now let's just look at our agenda for today, because this agenda is very important. So look at the agenda today. What is it we're talking about? Resolutions. Everybody seems to make them. Okay. What is Blue Monday? Okay. Where does that phrase come from? Does it have to be this way? Okay. How to fight back. And often when we have this Blue Monday, we have this thing of being low and self-loathing. And there's a big word for it, catastrophizing thing. The worst things are going to happen. We'll look at some quick and sustained wins, and we'll actually give you a chance to measure your positivity. Hopefully we'll get through to that, but if we run out of time, I always play contingencies. We'll give you those slides as well, but we'll hopefully get through them all. And before we set off officially, I want to make sure people feel safe and secure. Ask the questions, it's inclusive. And at the end, Jenny will mention some safeguarding ways you can feel included in this conversation if you need extra support as well. Okay, so the Chartered Management Institute, when they look at this quite often on an annual basis, they look at the list of top resolutions for businesses and business people. And they did a poll a few years ago of 1,200 managers. They called the Priorities and Expectation Report. And they found these three things that people that really wanted in the resolution. Honing a skill, like in CPD. Getting that balance between work, rest, and play. Okay. That harmony, as Jenny and myself like to call it, from Jeff Bezos, that harmony in our life. And the third thing is supporting other people and supporting the group and learning those skills that will help that team development, especially if you're a manager in an organization. Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook man, he reads a recommended book every 2 weeks. He does that every year for his resolution, so he keeps it static all the time. Has anybody got any resolutions in the audience today? Anybody got some resolutions? You pick anything up for me, Jenny? You can talk to me as well.
In the chat. No one want to put in resolutions that they've agreed in the chat panel.
I don't know if resolutions for certainly for older people like myself, it's a common thing, but go on.
You'll like this one, Mel, saying not making resolutions.
Well, that's what I'm finding with the younger people now. They're not making as many. And it's a smartness to that decision as well. Anything specific extra in there, Jenny?
A few around fitness regimes, healthy living, dry January,
all right,
rest,
okay.
focusing on developing habits.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that today. Dry January, there's some media campaigns, keep the pubs full and get the businesses go. And I know some doctors I speak to, they don't like dry January because it's the boom and bust. Stop it, then load it back extra in February. And they more rather say with the drinking, just have the dry days on a regular basis, 3 or 4 dry days. Anyway, that's something and nothing. We've got your resolutions. So Blue Monday, it's the 3rd Monday in January, which is today, when people feel at their lowest. Okay, so they tell us. And possible reasons could be you failed your New Year resolutions. So 75% of resolutions fail by the 3rd January. Okay, so don't feel alone. That's the first thing, positive thing I'm going to say to you. If you think you failed, well, you're not alone. And fail means you're just going to start again next time with more knowledge and experience. That's a simple definition of failure for me. It could be the weather. It's gone a bit colder today, hasn't it? The temperature, the heating is not working in my house so much. Seasonally affected disorder. Post-Christmas emotions, okay. Relationships might have failed. Lots of divorces around Christmas time and New Year time, I believe. Employment, hopes and fears. And we believe what we read sometimes, you know. So there are possible reasons why that happens. But we want to be today talking about positivity and changing your mindset and thinking gold. Okay, Gold Monday. And what if we saw Blue Monday as Gold Monday? Gold month, gold year, you know. And there is a statement that I often get told about, because I'm 62, that it's later than you think. And it's about time we started looking for opportunities rather than threats. And rather than somebody said to me, Blue Monday, okay, let's turn this around. You know, it could be a coping Monday, as I'm doing today, but I want it to be a gold month and a gold year and a gold life. So to do this, I think there's 5 things we must think about. We must have an exciting vision of what we want the future to look like and how we want to achieve it. Okay, I think it's really important to remember that. And if we don't remember that, we need to remind ourselves quite regularly. We must understand, as somebody mentioned already, how we have good habits and behaviors, how they are formed. Because, you know, as we'll find out, the brain doesn't distinguish between good and bad habits. It just does things for ease. It wants the simplest path. And if you make it simple, it'll keep doing that same thing for you. If we want to get to gold month and gold year, we must be able to take on challenges with action. We can think about it and talk about it, but we must do something. Almost to the point of learning to fail fantastically well. You'll learn more from your failures than your successes. And another one that's often overlooked is we must positively reflect on our disappointments as an opportunity next time. And I mentioned before, about 2 minutes ago, when you fail something, you know, if you see it as a failure, first attempt in learning, I think next time you do it, you're more informed. And when you reflect on something, I think once you get past that initial disappointment and reflect, then you become really informed. And the last one is let's not beat ourselves up. If I said to you, the biggest threat to you is you know, that you are going to be the one who's going to sabotage yourself, that's self-sabotage, whether it's obvious or subtle, it doesn't really matter. The impacts are still the same. So those 5 things we're going to talk about this afternoon. The first thing, to visualize that future. And I've got a nice picture somewhere, I think in the Maldives here. So just for a second, just let your mind go and imagine what your future looks like. What job is it you're doing? What position are you in? What money are you getting paid? Do you have people underneath you? Is it in this country or overseas? I want your mind to go and just think of things that you maybe think, oh, I don't deserve this. Make sure you deserve it. Let your imagination go now. If I was doing this, I want to work in this next year with no pain in my knee, because I'm getting a new knee on Friday. I want to get a place where I'm overseas some of the time to get that warmth, working with people who want to be in front of me on a range of aspects of mindset. But I also want to be in a place in this country, in a nice countryside, having some courses I run as well. And that's my vision. And if I don't visualize that, then there's less chance of that coming true. Because we know there's the reticular activating system in our brains that once we think about something consciously, it's residing in there in our subconscious brains, and our brains are looking for it to happen. So you're going to flight to your visualization. So you might think that's a bit silly, but for me, internally and subconsciously, my mind and body are looking to actually make this happen. Yeah, it's really important you keep visualizing this. And the more specific you make it, the better it's going to be as well. Anyone want to share any visualizations for the future? Any grand hopes? Anything in the box, Jenny?
Right, let's have a look. I was just visualizing being able to surf a bit more.
Oh, there you go. Surfing, the water. Yeah.
Of course, other people are looking about travel, running their own business. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Making things happen.
Go on.
Stop talking about it and just getting on and doing it.
Absolutely.
That might have been the resolutions as well.
Yeah. There was a survey done a few years ago about people's regrets. And one of the biggest regrets, number one, was not traveling enough. And that was an interesting one. Okay. So,
and a question, Ross, for you,
yeah.
actually. What if you don't really envisage your future if you can't do that?
Well, I understand that. It's a bit cloudy and you're not too sure. But visualize the day. Visualize the day, how you want this day to go. You're on here now, it's a positive thing. If we can put some action in place after today, it's great. Look for those small steps and then do it again tomorrow. And see if we can look a bit more forward the next few days, maybe next week, maybe next month. You know, I was 50 before I realized what I really wanted to do. And I was a teacher, working professional sport. And it all came together. I like talking, I like writing, you know, I like training people. And so it could take a bit of time. So I understand that concept. I'm not sure. Keep it short and short term. And I think you get better success that way. Okay. The second thing, if you want to turn that Blue Monday into Gold Monday, we've got to look at our habits and willpower. Some people think, you know, habits take 21 days to create, and therefore you've got to invest some time. But other people, other researchers say it's just a matter of being aware of something. So you unfreeze that bad habit, you make the change, and then you consistently refreeze it so it becomes a new habit. And in those three images there, it looks quite simple, doesn't it? And some changes will be that simple, okay? When people say, go to the doctors, you need to stop smoking because you're going to die, actually unfreeze that, change it to not smoking, refreeze that, and never smoke again. And there are some changes in life that are very simple, because if you don't do them, then you die. Human nature is very complex, though, and sometimes when we're given that scenario, we still ignore it. But in simple terms, that's what we want to do, to be aware of something, unfreeze it, a new change, and then make sure it sticks then. If you're looking for some detail in this, and I've read quite a few books and I'll reference them shortly, habit is basically an automated behavior pattern. The brain wants an easy way, and it's happy with your status quo at the moment, and it can't tell between good or bad habits. You can, but your brain doesn't want too much change. When it comes to that unfreezing bit, it pushes against it because it's effort. It doesn't want too much effort. So often change comes with a period of uncomfortableness, a bit of animosity towards yourself or towards a situation, and a bit of a grind, but it's always worth it. And Duke University in America found that 40% of daily actions are not decisions, just response habits. So we're almost dialed into a way of thinking and behaving. And for me, that gives me hope, because if I choose that, it's just a natural response, then I can unchoose it. I can unfreeze myself. So we often talk about this equation, and some of the books, it mentions this quite a bit, where we have cues and cravings, rewards, routines and reward. Now, they could happen in many ways. It could be a social thing where we go out at night and it's at night time, then we have a craving to have a drink. The routine is to get a few drinks in ourselves, and the reward is we feel much better. But the downside is the next day, we've spent a lot of money, we've probably put some weight on, and we're feeling a bit emotionally fragile. In a simpler example of that, it could be that somebody could be in the afternoon, an environment somewhere where at 3 o'clock every afternoon, they produce cakes. So when we get our break at 3 o'clock, there's the cue, 3 o'clock. The routine is to go and eat the cake. The reward is you feel good. But the same with the drink is, when you're eating cakes all the time, it could actually have a negative impact on your health, your balance, your mental health, and also your physical health in training. So we've got to break that routine somehow. And they did a lot of these things in the scientific labs in America, where they click a door and the mouse then runs to the end. So here's the click, runs to the end, gets reward of cheese. Now, that's fine. But remember, the brain works on these cues. And some of these cues and cravings are not helpful for us. So as I said before, it's identifying which are helpful, which are unhelpful, and we go to unfreeze it. So if you want to change your habits and willpower into good things, learn to observe the cues and cravings and the rewards that go with them. So if I started drinking more, I might really enjoy it, but the next day I'll think, why did I do that? I beat myself up. And that self-sabotage I talked about before really hurts me. Now, if I'm aware of these cues and cravings, and if I'm aware of them, I can think, I don't want to do that because the outcome is not what I want. So it's a bit of articulate intellectualization there of thinking, what is it that's giving this crazy cue here? There are research as well that says never deny yourself anything bad. Just don't make it a habit. So there's certain books I read where there's a statement that says, never deny yourself chocolate. Because if you keep denying chocolate, you're going to use up all your willpower. So some chocolate occasionally is actually very good for you. Okay. So the first step in self-control is to set a clear goal and understand the why power. Why do you want to change a habit? And even list those reasons down. And health and losing weight and looking leaner and getting a 6-pack to an 8-pack. Those people, why do you want to do that? To look better, to feel healthier, to impress people? Write it all down there because they're going to help you keep on your journey here to get this success. The second thing is get people to support you, either publicly and put it out there. I want people to sponsor me to lose this weight. Or do it privately with people you know. I want you to support me, build me up. Don't pull me down, to build me up. So get people on your side. Don't have too many goals and build rewards in. So too many goals can be distracting. And in a second, I'll show you how they can be conflicting. But always give yourself rewards. Pat yourself on the back. Spend a bit of time reading a bit longer on a book if that's what you enjoy. Do something where you're saying, well done to yourself. Well done, Ross. Okay, I'm not there yet, but I'm on the journey. I've not dropped off yet. And if I do drop off, I can step back up again. It's when we beat ourselves up. That theme that runs through all these 5 is that self-sabotage. Watch out for conflicting goals. So you might like to lose weight, but you love a drink as well. Yeah, and it's part of your social life. I don't want to stop my social life, but potentially they're conflicting goals. So when you write down your goals, make sure they're not conflicting. And we often say, write down 5 main goals, then find out if there's any that's working against each other. Okay. Daily targets give momentum, but monthly targets give perspective. So if you've got a daily target to do something, it doesn't quite come off. Think about the monthly thing. 1 bad apple doesn't make a bad bunch. So throw the apple away, start again tomorrow. Okay, that momentum for 1 day is fine. Once we have the month in place, perspective, then we might have a few bad days, but we'll probably have more good days than bad days, hopefully. And that gives you perspective on your goals. Often people do one thing wrong and they throw the baby out the bathwater, yeah? We don't want to do that. The guy called Stephen Covey, he talks about 7 habits of highly effective people. And he says, always start with the end in mind, this goal setting. You can't achieve something if you're not crystal clear what is it you want to achieve. Be very specific. Okay, doing really well. These 2 books are read. Charles Duhigg, The Power of Habit. It's a bit of a thick one, but I recommend it if you want to get more about how your individual brain works. Okay. There was another one as well. It's Willpower. And Willpower is a fascinating book, Baumeister and Tierney. I've got a reference at the end. And what he said about willpower is this. Everybody has got a set amount of willpower. It's finite. So you cannot think I'm the best willpower in the world. Everybody will use it up at some point. So remember that, everybody. Okay, number 3, take on challenges. And I referred to this already. Our subconscious mind is trying to protect us from threats. And sometimes protecting us so much that we result in poor behavior choices or an inability to act, like analysis paralysis. So if I do this, something bad's going to happen. But it's the human nature, yeah? We want to actually challenge this. So we learn more from our actions than our inactions. So anybody who wants to turn that blue to gold, you've got to do something. And whether that wins for you or loses for you, only loses temporarily because you're going to learn from that situation. A lot of footballers often talk about that cliche. We never win or lose, we win or learn. And I think it's a great statement that you learn from something, but you can only learn when you do an action. And again, from my experiences, being an old man at 62, say yes to more often. It doesn't, and if it doesn't go to plan, you'll learn from these temporary failures. And I think that's something I've done really well, of like falling quite well, failing fantastically well sometimes, but also learning at the same time. What's the worst that can happen? Yeah. Positive reflection. Okay. Number 4, reframe the past. You might have thought some of the bad's been really bad, and that might have been a while ago, a few years ago. And you could actually remember it in the wrong way. You could actually make it worse than what it actually was. And often when we go back in time, we may realize that actually what happened wasn't exactly what happened. It was our younger mind interpreting it in a very negative way. And as we get older, we get to balance things better. We get perspective better in life. So my view of this is to leave the failures behind, cut those ties from the past. Now, for me, for sure, when I first started speaking in public, I had some terrible times, but I was determined to carry on. And when I look back now, I think, oh, it wasn't that bad. At least I had a go at it. I had a try at it. And when you think it's really bad, other people don't think it's quite as bad as you. You're the worst judge of your experiences. So remember that people don't see it as bad as you see it, because you see it from a perspective that's almost contaminated. Now, we can actually coach for these triggers and behaviors. And sometimes if I've gone through something in the past, how did I view it then? Can I ask somebody as a witness, what did they think of that situation? And somebody as a friend or a mentor to ask you that same question. So coming at from 3 different directions, on these goals I want to achieve, am I doing well? What's my friend or mentor say? Independent person, a witness say about this? And you'll find that the last 2 are more accurate than yourself, because you will look for the worst possible outcome first, where other people look for the positives. So this positive reflection is good to on your own, but better to do with somebody who knows you. Be kind to your mind. I like that. Yeah. Again, I was on a webinar with Mr. Hansen, Rick Hansen, a doctor for many, many years, and he talks about resilience. And he said, we can all be resilient, but you must give yourself psychological options so you can breathe. So, I've told this already more than once today. The biggest threat to success is ourselves. We have a fabulous appetite for self-sabotage. So 6,500 thoughts a day, and 70% are negative. That's a lot of thoughts in negative. Once you're aware of that, hey, that's just my brain trying to get to me on a Monday, and it's Blue Monday, and I don't want to be here, and a lot of things are bugging me. You know what? That's what the brain does. And it works even better at night. So when you think it's worse at night, it is, because the brain's working to trip you up at night. Often people see resilience as the answer to everything. Just get more resilience and you can push through. And I don't fully believe that. And I think some resilience is good, depending on your frame of reference, your experience, and your skills. But it's about being adaptable and giving ourselves self-compassion. That will get you further in life consistently. And if you're constantly beating yourself up, whatever resilience you've already got will become depleted pretty quickly, like the willpower. So when people say you just need more resilience, get more of it, I'd take a step back and say, you know what? I need to congratulate myself on being in this game for this length of time. I might have stumbled or dropped the ball, but I'm still in it. Give myself some support. Okay, those are 5 things I've been through. Now, I'm not saying to everybody can do that, because there's things that can affect our positivity that you're probably aware of, like genetics. You can't choose your parents. Our parenting styles, the environment you're brought up in was a big thing. When we're younger, it's a massive impact on us. Our relationships we choose, our experiences, again, especially when we're younger, the feedback, whether we interpret something for real or you just perceived it. So what you thought was real, it could be your perception, your little filter on the world, which is a bit negative, 70% negative. What support systems have you got around you to be positive? It's very difficult to do anything on your own for any length of time. there any things that affect our positivity? Can anybody else in the audience think about any things that affects our positivity there? Anything in the chat box, Jenny?
Have a look.
I'd like to get a bit of feedback as we go along.
Being criticised.
Yeah, somebody critical,
Self-doubt.
somebody we know and trust is an important thing.
Workload. Outlook on life. Employment.
Yeah, employment's a big thing, absolutely. But often in life, somebody we know and trust and love gives us a compliment, we push it away. Somebody we don't know says something bad, we accept it. And that's human nature.
Negative people is coming up quite a few times as well.
People, yeah.
Negative people.
Yeah, a lot of negative people. And the answer to that is surround yourself with more positive people. It really is. And you're a function of your environment. That's why it's up there at number 3. If you can manipulate that environment to get people in your team supporting you, yeah, supporting Ross, I want those people in my team. I want the truth, their truths, but my truth is contaminated. Okay, so this slide is really to say, don't take it too personally. There are things that have already happened that you can't affect, but there are things the future will be able to affect. And that last one's a big one, getting that right team around you. Okay, do you want to see how positive you are? A little measurement scale here. I've got 22 questions. These are the first 11. So all you do as a participant now, if you put 1 to 11 down on a bit of paper, and next to each one, just put yes or no to the questions. You don't have to write the questions out. Just put 1 to 11 on a piece of paper, then come to each one. I see my community as a place of problems, yes or no. That's all you have to do, yes or no. The next slide will give us the answers. And you give the first part of up to 11. So I'll keep quiet for a second. And then you can put in some of the things in there. I don't know if we need a bit of a thumbs up feedback, Jenny, or just another moment or two, do you think?
How are people doing? Yep,
We're just trying to see if you're awake, that's all, aren't we?
Yeah. Yep. People are saying they're done. We're good to go.
Okay. Quick people.
Oh no, hang on. 1 sec.
Oh,
sorry, Tracy.
Tracy, I'll trust your honesty to answer this correctly. So there's your answers. Okay. And what we're looking for, guys, are yeses, yeah? So count how many yeses you've got there. So if number 1, for instance, I see my community as a place of problems. Actually, no, I don't see it as a place of problems, yeah? Number 2, I see much beauty around me. Yes.
So we're counting the yeses here.
Yeah.
So you might have sort of the maximum then is 6 yeses out of 10, 11, we say.
You're quick, aren't you, Jenny? You are quick.
Not really. Had lots of coffee this morning. So Elizabeth, that's good. Your maximum positivity.
Yeah. Shall we to the next slide?
Yeah, and then you're going to give us some analysis at the end.
Yeah, I'll give you some categorization at the end.
Lovely. Okay, so
Your next
everybody
questions.
note down your score from that one.
Yeah.
Ross, and number 17, are we missing a word? When I think of the past, there's something
Oh, yeah.
things stand out.
I think of the past. Oh, that's a good question. When I think of the past, I think of the things that stand out.
Okay. Positive things.
Yeah.
Drop me a message on the chat when you've gone through those ones. So a few people have finished that one now.
Okay, let's put some answers up.
Question 17, Tracy, is when I think of the past.
The sad things stand out. Sorry, the sad things stand out.
Sad things stand out. Okay. Okay, so that changes it, right? You might want to revisit number 17 as well.
So let's go back there. Think about the sad things stand out. Okay.
So here we're marking, are we, the number of yeses we've got that are the same on this slide?
Yeah.
So we've got a maximum of 5 yeses on this one.
So that's 11 altogether, yeah?
Yep.
So when you've done that, 11 is the maximum. So that means you're a very positive thinker. It means that you don't see opportunities or situations as intrinsically good or bad. You're looking to make it positive. And a lot of that is down to our genetics, environment, our experiences. But if you're thinking like the categorization is 9, 10, 11, the top level, that means that you're a very positive thinker. Your glass, that cliche, glass is half full rather than half empty. You're looking for opportunities rather than threats. Okay.
Just go back, actually, sorry to interrupt, to the marking on the first grouping from somebody else for the 1 to 11 to be brought up again. Yeah, that one. Lovely. Thanks, Ross. Keep going. Sorry.
Okay. So we've got 9, 10, 11, the maximum one. You're a naturally inclined person to think that way, or you've learned to become that way. If I go to the other extreme to 0, 1, 2, and 3, it means that you, whether you know it or not, you're programmed to look for the problems, look for the negatives, that you can't see opportunities. Everything becomes a threat. And the more threats you see, the more threats they become real to you. The perceived threats become real threats. And so at that lower end of something, we need to actually strip it back down again and look at what is it, particularly individually. I go through this individually with some of these questions. What is it about this question that gives you a no? Yeah. What is it that gives me a yes? And the middle ground, and I suspect most people in this middle ground, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, is something that can vary from time to time, day to day. So you've got some measure of positivity, and it may be a fluctuation factor, different times of year, different times of day, different people. But I think you've got a lot of potential. Everybody's got potential, but sometimes when you look at some of these questions and deconstruct themselves, I see my community as a place of the problems. No, it's not. Yeah. And it's really powerful to remember that. We can send that to the delegates as well, Jenny, for them to have a look at. And I think it's just a snapshot. When I say I'm going to do anything with people, I always say it's just a snapshot how you feel today. And for me, I always like to remember that when you do a test at GCSE level, it's just how you know on that day. I think people generally know if they're positive or not. And I think it's when they're honest with themselves, and I think some of the situations there, you'll think, why am I a bit defensive? Why am I seeing threat where other people are seeing opportunities? And I think to actually make this Blue Monday into a Gold Monday, there's something about taking on these opportunities, challenges, not self-sabotaging, getting some good habits together. All the things we talked about will lead us to actually look at the world, interpret the world slightly differently. I put a slide on now with a guy called Darren Hardy. And Darren Hardy is a multi-millionaire. And he made a lot of money from this book, The Compound Effect, in 2011. And he says, it's the small positive decisions we make every day that ultimately lead us to future success. The problem is we can't often see the results of a bad mistake immediately, but over time, bad mistakes are compared to the point of no return. So we're driven into something, sleepwalking into something where we think we're making the right decision, but we're making bad habits, poor behaviors, and eventually we're losing out massively. And he had a little story about two sons, and the father said, do you want $1 a day, or do you want $1 million at the end of a month? Okay. And one of the kids said, yeah, I'll have $1 million now. Yeah, sorry, I'll have $1 million now. Or do you want $1 a day? But every dollar a day, we'd double it each day. So this greedy kid said, I'll have the $1 million now, I'll take the money. And if you accountancy people can work this out for, there's a challenge for you. What does $1 multiplied each day become to? Right? I think I know the answer, but see if you can work it out now for me. So you have $1 on day one, $2 on day two, $4 on day three. Because let me tell you what that comes to. There's some sharp people here. I'll give you a clue. The child who went for $1 million straight away lost out big style. Okay. It's the small steps every day that leads to great success. Anybody got an answer for me?
Not yet. We're still back on the 22 questions.
All
So
right.
we're just doing back and forward on that a little bit, actually. So
I'm
we'll take a
I'm
couple
just
of
trying to
minutes
make
at
sure
the
we
end
get
on
some
that one.
questions at the end. That's all, to get through this.
Yeah. So let's press on.
Okay. In the lack of an answer, then I think the answer is around $11 million. Okay, as opposed to one. So I think what is Darren Howdy is saying basically, the small decisions we make every day have a cumulative effect. And maybe a simpler example of that might be eating good foods that we know are good for us. We don't get the feedback initially, yeah? But if we keep persevering with it, after a few weeks and months, maybe we start feeling better. And that's what we're saying about decisions in life and habits. And if you want to turn that gold, that blue into gold, it's the small decisions we make every day that builds and builds and builds. And why people sometimes don't make resolutions, they make lifetime changes. And they don't make it final change, they make lifetime commitments to have a better quality of life in terms of exercise, diet, friendships. They accept they're going to drop the ball, and it takes pressure off people. And that way, you're not falling into that category of 75% of people after 3 weeks feel like a failure. And a lot of the celebrities these days, you'll see them in the newspapers, I don't make resolutions anymore because I fail. I make a commitment to a lifelong goal. And I think that's an interesting concept in itself. Jenny, do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Ross, because it's just to flag for people who are new to these sessions that Ross and I run these monthly webinars, but there are other sources of support. So we have lots on wellbeing on the website and the Learning My Way microsite for apprentices. If it's if it's a safeguarding concern that you're worried about, do reach out to our safeguarding team. The address is there. And you can contact your talent coach, of course, as well. And then save the date for February the 23rd when we're next together. And then finally, I'm going to put in the chat a link to a Google survey. Just a really short feedback form that I'd like people to complete. So Ross and I know what subjects you'd like us to cover later on in the year. So if you could all do that, that'd be fantastic. And Tracy, we joined the session again on Eventbrite, on Kaplan's Eventbrite page. There are the booking links to each of the future sessions. So as Ross is talking, I'll find that and put that in the chat as well. Thanks, Ross. Back to you.
A lot of stuff going on at once, isn't there? Pressure of time. I'm noticing that we've got a few minutes left, which is good. I can see 81 chats in there. That says something about the interaction today. But I'm wondering if anybody wants to ask me a direct question about something I've said or not said, and they want to get a bit more detail about this, because it's really important that we don't stimulate you, then frustrate you. We want to stimulate you and keep that stimulation going. Those small steps, as Darren Hardy said. Any questions that people want to ask? We've got about 3 or 4 minutes left. I know you're doing multitasking at the moment, everybody's feedback here and questionnaires there. Yeah. Any good plans to organize goals? There's one called, I can confirm this for you. There's one called My Best Year Yet, and it's got a planner inside it, and it's been a multi-seller. My Best Year Yet. And it's a woman called Jenny Dipsler, I think. It's a really strange second name, but if you Google My Best Year Yet, it's got a really good planner, and I used it about 15 years ago. Vision boards are really good from Natasha. Yeah, I've used that a bit. People put vision boards on the fridge. so it gets them all the way. But make it colourful, make it bright, make it big. Yeah. If you make it small words and letters, it doesn't seem real. But the more time you see something, the subconscious part of our brain wants to achieve it. The reticular activating center. What's a vision board? When you draw something out, maybe on a timeline, maybe on just some images that you want to work towards and move towards. So achieve it. Yeah. The last slide. Do you want to put the last slide on? Okay.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
So Alice, lots of support at Kaplan.
So a vision board is where you draw or write something, put it in big colours and where you want to go. Some people put it in a linear way. I'm here now today. Tomorrow I want to be this point and this level. The next point here. Some do it as a helter-skelter or up a mountain's a good one. Put the visions where you need to be. But don't forget some of the essence of what we talked about today is if something doesn't go quite the way you want it to, you stumble, you're not falling for good. It's just a stumble. And then you get back on it again, like ride a horse. So learn to love your mistakes. We talked about it before, because that will keep you going better than criticizing yourself and not bothering anymore. But if you want to be really smart, don't make resolutions, make commitments to living in a different life. And I think that's a very simple way of doing something. Any of the chats in there, Jenny? Any questions?
Yeah, just a reflection, actually. Somebody's really nice comment about this is a kind of mini mindset. You know, it's an affirmation, actually, that somebody is a positive person and just needs to take active steps. That's a lovely comment.
Yeah, and sometimes in life, we don't learn something new, just remember something old, you know, and I think that's important. I think that's what it's essence, what I was saying there. Remember something we already knew. Ah, that's good. And they're saying the same things I was thinking.
Yeah. So Ross, how about you just give us one last comment on how we're turning Blue Monday to Gold Monday in summary, and then I'll stop the recording and we'll stay on for a couple of minutes afterwards for the people who had questions about that quiz.
Yeah. For my one, number 5 is the best one, the self-sabotage. Whether we know it or not, we can be the culprits of our own downfall. So when you stumble, or when you think you've fallen big time, dust yourself off, get back on again, speak to some friends, write down your goals, readjust your goals, but get some confirmation that, you know, it's not a failure. It's just the next step for success. So that's the thing that I see a lot. People lose because they beat themselves up too much. Okay. One, Jenny.
Thank you, Tracy. Right, I'm just going to stop the recording. Thank you, everyone.